Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new series called Coach's Review, where every week, give or take, I'm going to try and sit down with a coach or a player from one of the teams who played in OWCS over the weekend, and we're going to go through one of the maps from that weekend to hopefully try and learn a thing or two, figure out how some of the best teams in the world think about the game, and maybe even try and solve some of the problems they had on some of these maps. So my first guess, who else would it be but ChrisTFer from the Ultimates. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. I thought, if we're starting right, I thought Chris coaches dive. I thought that's like the most. That's what people want to see. It's going to have millions of views.
So this will be the proof in the pudding, right? A peek behind the curtain, see if the theory's any good, right? So what game have you picked for us to go through today?
So I wanted to maybe do. I did one of the games against SRPeakCheck. I thought there's maybe some interesting stuff about. Obviously, they play effectively the comp that we played for most of our lives. They play like Reinhardt with Sim, and I think actually, especially if you watch them play, I think they take almost like copyrightable amounts of inspiration from the way we used to play. I think like a huge amount of their decision making and stuff is very similar to how we used to play. So it's kind of nice to be able to like talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, and then maybe how a team that has the option to play dive can and probably has across history outplay this comp quite easily.
All right, sounds good. So I'll put the link in the description to the match and the replay code as well. This was obviously from the OWCS qualifiers that happened this weekend, which obviously the Ultimates and Chris managed to circumvent and get themselves into the regular season. So on the screen share now, Chrissy has the cam, he has the control, and we're starting on Nepal Shrine.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing to say is that I think a lot of people look at this matchup and they say this is a rush comp and this is a dive comp. So our comp wants to dive and their comp wants to rush or brawl or do something. I think these terms are like effectively antiquated in terms of the way that Overwatch should be played at the highest level. And I think one perspective that I'm going to try to offer through the VOD review is that actually this matchup, and I think this is largely true if you play any sort of brawl. So even if this is like a Queen Lucio Kiri or like some sort of what you would call still a brawl comp, but much more options aggressively, I think we need to look at this matchup through the lens of the objective, okay? And that's obviously basically that's why he smiles, because I always talk about the objective, because one thing that people don't know about Overwatch is people think it's won or lost in the kill feed, but it's actually not. It's won or lost in this bit. You need to get to 100 to win. You don't need to, don't need any kills. And I think that the Rhine comp itself is actually fundamentally not a rush comp. There is no rushing involved. It's effectively a bunker comp. What it needs to be able to do is it needs to be able to set up BAP in some sort of relatively safe position. It needs to be able to control the objective. And for us, our job is not necessarily to just 3-2-1 dive the backline like maybe in 2017 ChrisTFer Winston dive would do, just full send it. Instead, what we want to try to do is cycle a little bit. And I think that's what we'll maybe see examples of as we start to play.
For anyone who's watched Cloudy's streams as well, because obviously Cloudy streams a lot of his scrims and all of his matches with comms. Really, the Rhine comp is very often, it's a positional comp, and you'll see Cloudy calling this a lot of the time, where we need to stabilize here, and now we want to TP here and all of this, and get themselves those good positions.
So what I would say is this, okay, so the most fundamental understanding is this. Our comp does not just want a 3-2-1 dive. We don't just want to use all of our resources and just try to kill the BAP. We want multiple opportunities at this, okay? So what we're looking for is numerous cycles where we effectively go in, we drain a few resources, we get out. That's what dive's about, right? Dive isn't about just getting in. Dive is the concept of getting in, out, shaking it all about, okay? So what we're looking to do is we're going to look to cycle this. So we're going to maybe look to have our ball roll in, boop in, we'll do whatever, Tracer come in. We're probably going to, on that same cycle timing, Sojan's going to send an E, look to charge a rail, Anna's going to lob a nade. And that's going to be one cycle. And if the first cycle results in a kill, then fantastic, we celebrate. But for us, the idea is that it doesn't necessarily need to be a kill. We just want to get as many cycles in as possible. So what that means for Cloudy's team is there is two things. One, they have to find a way to survive the cycle, obviously, because if they just die, it's really hard to win Overwatch. But two, there needs to be a price for a failed cycle. So what is the price for a failed cycle?
Somebody dying.
Or That's
Losing
actually
all
not what
their
I was going
cooldowns,
for.
losing all their health, getting pushed back out.
No. X, you know this, mate. The price of what Cloudy's team should look for is if we fail a cycle, they get 10, 20% of the objective. That's what we're looking to do. So the idea is Cloudy's team needs to control the objective. We cycle in. If we succeed, okay, fine. If we don't succeed, even if they don't get a kill, obviously if they get a kill, fantastic. But they're going to want to start ticking this percentage up. And this is a huge amount. If you think you did a video about this back in the day, about our lighthouse comp and our lighthouse inspiration. This is all it was. TP to point, control the objective. Even if they wipe us, we got 20%, we still 30%. We start to then get up to 90%. What's the big problem right now when it comes to controlling the objective?
For Cloudy's team?
Yeah.
It's not unlocked yet.
Yeah, it's not fucking unlocked. Okay, so this is a big problem. So anything that happens in the next 19 seconds in terms of any team trading resources favors us massively. They really, really, really want to keep as many resources as possible. They want both teams to have full resources as possible. So this gives us a really nice window in terms of we want to try to get something. Now, so what resources are we looking for? Well, almost anything. BAP Lamp is probably the single most significant cooldown, but we're looking for Rhine Shield, we're looking for Rhine HP, just like Reaper Shifts, like SimTP, just anything that we can get. So as we then go in, we're going to start to see it. So we're going to start to see Cloudy is going to pin forward to try to control the Ana. Now, normally this is probably pretty fine because basically what he's going to do is he's going to stop us being able to, we can't heal anyone, we can't need anyone. So obviously this is fine. What we might end up seeing is that Cloudy maybe gives us an opportunity to drain his resources too much. We're going to wait, we're going to shoot Cloudy a little bit, we're going to go in for the first thing. Now, one thing that's interesting about this comp is how do they kill Ball?
It's really hard, actually. It's really hard, especially in this map. Lots of good megas for Chase as well. Ball in general, really hard hero to kill. They kind of just have to survive it a lot of the time. They'll only really get it late fight. Probably their best kill opportunity is what we talked about earlier about the objective. And this is why we had success maybe back in London as well, is because we would force the objective. Suddenly these heroes that are really hard to kill, like a Ball, like a Tracer, like either Genji or something, they're forced to touch point or contest point because otherwise they're going to lose the map, and that's when you actually get the kill opportunity.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like if they were able to find a room to get like a Sigma, they could rock him. If they had a cast, they can stun him. If they had an Ana, they can sleep him. But without any of these tools for hard CC, they're basically reliant on big Illipi to get some sort of like momentum cancelling boop and then Chase fucking up. But actually, reality Chase is almost unkillable. So we're about to go for our first cycle. And what we have to ask ourselves as the dive team in this situation is, did we die? The answer has to be no. If the answer is yes, then we're in big problems. And how many resources did we drain? So we're going to do one boop, we're going to do another boop. So do we really drain any resources, main? Well, not really. Kev maybe gets a little bit of pressure on the Reaper. We don't force anything. But because Cloudy made this decision to step forward, Cloudy now finds himself in a situation where he's lost a lot of HP. The sleep, this is going to drain a lot of resources, almost everything. This is going to force the lamp. And this is basically fucked. Because did our cycle get a kill?
Nope. But it got everything else.
It got all of the resources, and did we trade any objective for this?
Nope. Not for 3 seconds, at least. Still safe.
Still hasn't even unlocked. So this is absolute disaster. This is the worst case scenario possible. What actually would have been an even better situation in this is if Cloudy's team had AFK'd in spawn and then just TP'd to point when it unlocked. It would have been objectively better in doing this because now Chase can slam. There is obviously kills for us here, like everything's low, but even though there's no kills, there is no chance for them to flip the objective because they have nothing. Cloudy's going to go to point, but from his perspective, if I can go to his POV, he's got 300 shield, he's got half HP. He's hardly in an anchor position. We then make a decision to continue to go aggressive. Again, Sojourn's pretty good against this comp. We now come in for what would probably be our second or our third cycle. We get the boop. Again, they are not standing on point, so we are even getting the objective here, and because there's so few resources, there's just kills here. Reaper looks for a timing to kill Ana. As long as our Lucio is doing his job correctly, which is just to make sure the Reaper can't get a solo kill, we contest it. Now Cloudy comes in. Again, Cloudy really doesn't want to give the flip because he knows the second we have objective pressure, it's fucked, and then it all falls apart. So this fight was lost 20 seconds ago, but because Dive can go in, out, in, out, in, out, we are not forced to commit at any significant point, and eventually we kind of clean it up.
Do you think this makes the Ball almost the best dive hero against these sorts of compositions then, just because out of all the options, like a Winston, maybe even a Hazard or a Doomfist, the Ball just has the most ability to be independent and to be in-out all the time?
I think so. I think Ball has been stealth buffed a lot. I think actually Jumbin has been playing a pretty strong hero for a long time, and it isn't actually that off meta. I think Ball is extremely, extremely good. I think even if they were to swap to Lucio Kiri or something, I think that's fine. Like any comp that which doesn't have like a really, really clear cut way to kill Ball's pretty insane against. I think the damage is it's pretty significant. Yeah. So I think I would say so.
And we're going to see Fi actually swap here immediately into something that now gives him a more direct way to deal with Chase or punish him in some situations too with the Cass.
Yeah, so what we're going to see is we're going to see a Cass swap, which makes sense. I think we even banned Cass on the last map because this is actually one of the best like counter play to what our comp can do. And we see Ghost immediately give up BAP. This is obviously fantastic for us because BAP is not a good hero, especially since Season 9. He's really, really not a good hero. But the second you get a BAP one trick to swap BAP, you already know, okay, these guys are in a little bit of trouble after one fight. What this is going to do is this puts their comp in a really awkward position. Ryan requires a shit ton of resources. He needs BAP. But if you play BAP, you kind of just lose. So you're in this kind of like this really tough like double situation. That's why a Hazard, a Queen, like a Mauga, some sort of like sustainy tank that works with Kiri is better. Okay, so now what we're looking to do is this. What our goal is we need to get a cycle off, right? But where do we want to cycle?
Before they get to their point.
That has to be our goal. Our goal has to be to get one cycle before they get their asses on point, and hopefully we've drained some resources. Exactly what our first cycle over here did when we did the stuff like when Cloudy lost all his resources. That's what we want. We want to get resources. If they are good, what they will find a way to do is use the sim TP to get 5 people on point full resources. That almost guarantees, unless we have significant ults, that we need to give the flip. And again, the second they get the flip, everything changes. Chase now has a timed condition. He has to go fast because we don't want to just let them play forever. So this is the thing. So a lot of eyes on Chase, obviously, because he gets to play this above position, this slam position. This is really good. They then need to find a way to rotate out. So they have a few options. There is a TP to point, maybe isn't the best option. There is a TP like around, so basically say, okay, Chase, you can't slam on top of us because we're going to go here. And then there is like a fake TP, bait, Chase's slam, and then walk. Like there was like these are maybe the 3 options that our team would use. I feel somewhere that from their perspective, I don't really see what this TP does. Like. Even if they take it, it doesn't get them any closer to the point. So if they don't get closer to the point, I don't give a fuck. That's always been the rule is this. We have to find a way to get closer to the objective. So I guess it's going to end up being a fake TP. Chase is going to slam. This slam itself isn't insane, but it starts to create this split. These 4 people look to chill. Cloudy is then starting to get resources drained. Again, he gets spoofed back in. The shields on Ball are insane. So even if he does get caught by the hinder, it's actually pretty difficult to kill him. You see Kevster draining resources. Again, if we go back to Cloudy's POV, what we're looking at here, we're looking at 400 shield, we're looking at half HP. There is no opportunity for him to touch the point. What does that mean? That means we're going to get at least another cycle. If we get 3 cycles, someone's dying. There's no way this team can survive 3 cycles. They didn't get any value out of their TP. And actually, in the end, you then start to see the lack of sustain come in and Cloudy just dies. So again, absolutely nothing special that we did here, just a really basic slam. But because the enemy didn't use their cooldowns or their TP correctly, we basically get a free hold. And one thing that's definitely true is their comp is very, very difficult to retake on. So then we start to look at the same thing. I think they're going to then start to do the same thing. And now what they're going to need to try to do is can they find some sort of solution? Again, we're going to set up above them. Can they bait our slam? Can they TP around? Is there anything that they can do differently? This TP itself, I don't mind it. What this is going to mean is our team now has to make a really, really switched on decision. Chase has to run as fast as possible because, again, Chase really wants to get a cycle in this zone here or in this zone here. Basically, off point, right? If we can get this first cycle before anyone in the enemy team touches point, we can drain some resources. He's going to have mines. Mines is obviously amazing for a cycle because you just like, it doesn't matter if it gets kills or not, just drop mines. You're always forcing significant resources. Again, they can't step towards the point. So they're going to step up. Backline's going to move out the way. That's good. Frontline's going to come in. Chase comes in, gets a slam, gets an insane slam. 3-man slam into 5-man mines. Forces everything, right? Forces cleanse, TP, Reinhardt has to step back, even gets a kill. So actually basically like solo kills the lobby here without taking a single piece of damage. Even if their Lucio lives here, there is too much drained off the point for their comp to stand a chance. So again, it's been really, really, really basic. But what you're seeing is, because we never let them set up their bunker, their base on point, there is almost no way that this comp can beat ours because its heroes are just worse. Sorry to say to all.
Well, especially
when we talk
about the Rhine comp as well, when you talk about these bunker positions, a bunker position is basically just a good part of a map to stand where you feel like you can peel well, you can control the objective, and you can be safe. But especially an ult like Mines, maybe even compared to like a Primal or a Meteor Strike. Actually, if you put Mines in a bunker, that bunker is not as safe as it once was either.
No, it's true. Certainly not. So now they're going to swap back to BAP, and all of a sudden they're starting to think, fuck, we really need to sustain from this BAP. They end up getting to 80 on the Kyriel and then swapping it. So there is a real crisis of confidence coming from SRPeakCheck already. Okay, so now we're going to spot that Sim gets a late spawn, and Chase is going to look to try to isolate it and get a kill. There's obviously a problem here because Sim can TP. Chase is then going to go in. He's then going to lose his momentum. He's going to then die. So what did I say to Chase after this?
Just some combination of fuck you, but also just remember Sim as a TP, and also you talk about a cycle, but this isn't necessarily a cycle, right? Because only Chase is here.
Yeah, exactly. What I said was, one thing you'll learn about me, buddy, is I hate free retakes, because this is me. This is ChrisTFer coaching. Ask anyone. I hate free retakes. Because we've just saw 2 fights where the enemy has an incredibly difficult problem to solve. And I hate when my team stops them having to solve the problem. I hate when instead of making them like find a solution, we just make a 50-50 play and get a kill. Because even if Chase kills Sim here, all it's going to do is delay them 10 seconds and then, you know, I much prefer being able to fight around really, really dominant positioning. This is why I think a lot of people consider me one of the slowest, not slowest as in mentally slow, but they do definitely think that too.
A few people do.
Slowest or maybe more defensive coaches. You know, I think teams look at like some of these like Korean teams, they think, oh, they're really aggressive, they're really high tempo. Whereas I think my teams historically have been incredibly slow tempo. But this somewhere fundamentally is my ideology, you know, like I really, really like the enemy trying to solve our problems when we have advantageous situations. So mistakes like this are what I really want to try to cut out of this team and what I really tried to cut out across like London and SSG. Because what this is then going to do is it's going to allow them an opportunity to TP. I like the fact that they no longer go in, they just find a way to TP. Now, this is exactly what their team wants, right? Their backline is safe, obviously, because Chase is dead. They're going to be able to, sorry, I didn't mean to go back. They're going to be able to step onto the point. We pulse bomb them. We then start to trade ults. They have some really good ults. This comp has really good ults for flipping the objective, right? So we would always use Simul as a retake ult because what you could do is exactly what they did here, you know? Step onto point, put up the sim wall, and now they start to finally be able to take on the objective. Now, for us, we are now left in a situation where we probably have to be a little bit patient. We're going to have to try to find cycles and go in. But what's the one advantage we have given, like, with our ability to play patient?
You now have loads of time because they've only just capped for the first time in the map.
So for us, if they were at 70%, this is really, really ropey because we have to go on our next cycle or we lose the map. But because they haven't done anything, even if we give 40% of just cycling, it doesn't matter as long as we get the correct decision. So this is why first fight with no ults is so important for the Reinhardt comp to win. You have to get first flip. If you don't get first flip on Koth, you're in a really, 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 really bad position. Because again, we have beat coming up. They don't really have too much, right? Like Shatter's a pretty like Mickey Mouse, so you have to really make some plays with it. High Noon is same, it's not super high value. So again, what can we do? We're just gonna slow it down. Okay, they got 10% for free, no problem. We throw a nade, it doesn't hit, no problem. We go for a boop. Again, it doesn't really work. Okay, now we start to get hit like a sleep. What's starting to happen now? The resources are starting to drain, right? You start to look at the HP, it starts to get a little bit low. They no longer have lamp. Again, what do we want to do? Well, we can cycle again, or if we feel like there is a timing to go, we can go. Faith calls, I want to push. I think, why the hell not? We've already cycled their resources out, so they don't really have anything to live it. We come in, we get some sort of boop. Their cast gets to 1 HP. Sky just throws an at his head. Their BAP gets one clipped by Kev, and then it's over. So again, you see how it cost us 30% to win this fight. But because they only had 0, it doesn't matter. 30% is no problem. Again, if they'd start to win more fights and have more objective, it's a different story. So this is why I haven't looked at anything we've done from a dive perspective. We haven't dove the backline. We've cycled. For them, they haven't rushed us. They haven't brawled us. They've tried to bunker. And this is why I think that I always look at this matchup through the lens of the objective.
Score.
How much when you go in for these cycles? Because we saw there maybe on that one, and it was like Sky went for a nade, then Chase swung, and all of this. Like, how much does that timing really matter? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they pitch a dive, they almost pitch I think it was season 6, you know, it's Tracer, Sombra, Winston dive, and it's like 3, 2, 1, perfect. Everyone's got like hitting the same player on the same frame type thing. How much of that is important in this type of matchup, and how much of it is just throwing stuff and kind of fishing for opportunities?
I think it's way more fishing. I think the idea of like 3, 2, 1, same timing, everything, it's a little bit overrated, you know? Like, I prefer everybody to do their job when they can do it best, you know? Like, you saw some of them, if Chase finds a slam boop timing, it doesn't really matter if everyone else can like nade it and do whatever, because it's just going to drain a bit of resource, you know? They have to turn around, that's when the nade hits. If everybody is like throwing it on the frame that the ball drops in, then it's really easy to shield and live it, you know? It's much more difficult to have to think, fuck, where's ball? Oh, where's Tracer? Oh, now I'm hit by a nade, you know? Like, this like constant like, everything is happening every time. So I really like that the team plays what they see, you know, like play their like correct timings. They don't have to do yes, exactly. High activity, cycle. Do your own thing as long as you're within each other's LOS. As long as you're actually together, no problem. Do your own thing. Okay, so now we get to Sanctum. Now, Sanctum is a little bit more awkward because we can't really play ball here. This is probably like one of the worst ball maps in the game. And now we're in a situation where our comp's changed a little bit. Again, Tracer doesn't feel like good here, so we've elected to play Farah. It's going to be a little bit more awkward to cycle, and we can't really surround them and play above them like you can on Shrine. Instead, it's going to be a little bit more awkward. So what I'm hoping you're going to see from us is you're going to start to see a really strong recognition of how to play the objective. So again, this is basically just copied on how we used to play, but what is Cloudy's teams like? How do you think they're going to set up here, if you could guess?
So kind of where they are now in this sort of position between like the mini and the mega, this is like quite a nice bunker position, and then maybe they'll have someone, probably Danid, try and force point, and then Danid can use his wall defensively, he can ice block, he can get like a window or whatever lamp, even if he needs it, they can sort of full pocket him on point, and then Thai and everyone else is kind of just free to shoot and sort of scare Sky and Kai as much as they can to like try and help Danid win that point fight.
Exactly. So I think what the Rhine comp doesn't want to do is, I don't think they care about our awkward angle. They don't care about our Anna's position. Then there's no real attempt from them to push or rush or brawl. You're right. This is what Danid is probably going to try to do, is try to do what Jamie used to do. And Jamie used to do is he would rotate here, he would drop under, and then he would touch the point. And the idea is, if you touch point, he becomes your anchor. We then all shoot to crossfire him. If he gets the point flip, then what do they do?
Just live.
Exactly.
Just live,
just
keep
AFK.
shooting.
Don't need to do anything. Absolutely nothing required. So for us, what's more important? If we had to fight the two fronts, are we more invested in killing BAP, or do we want to stop their May from getting point flip?
I think stop the May. Because I
think so too.
This bunker position where Ghost and Fire are right now on our screen, because they can just tuck back into that mega room, it's actually really hard to get a dive there. The nade from Sky as well, you know, what nade options does Sky have here? you can kind of just throw it down the channel, which in theory should be relatively consistent for Cloudy to block.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think the slower it goes, I think the better our ults are, and we have better ults than them. So any sort of like AFK like ult farming is good. And yeah, I think as long as they don't get this opportunity to force the point, Chase is not forced to do anything. I think Chase, if he tries to die back, he can easily die here. It's really, really possible to get caught by a boot hinder type situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to slow it down completely. Chase is going to basically do nothing. We're just going to look to spam. Obviously, we have the Pharah and the Sojourn, so somewhere we have pretty good pick potential. We're going to scout that their cast is going to look to make some sort of like micro play. We're going to clear it out. They're going to start to rotate around. But again, it just becomes really, really, really patient. We've spammed enough where their Mei, for some reason, didn't feel like she could get on point. Again, we're just spamming, looking for nades. We're not doing anything. We don't need to engage this because they haven't put us on the timer yet. Once they flip the point, the dive team has the timer. But as long as we can stop that first flip, then we can really slow it down. Paddy looks for a pin, nothing really happening again. Sojourn Pharah spamming the backline, just making things awkward. The second Danad walks up, what's Kev doing? Spamming, we get the kill. Obviously, Danad has Ice Block, yes, then I think, yeah, has Ice Block, so he's going to feel tough. But the important thing was the second he stood up like this, boom, we're crossfiring. We're stopping this objective, stopping ourselves from being put in a timer and really allowing us to play how we want to play.
There's these kind of important moments as well where, like, once Danad is in the position, it's really hard to get him out of it, actually. And that's why Mei's so good in these, because she can wall herself, she can ice block, she gets full line of sight. But in that bit where she has to do Niscross, compared to what Jamie would normally do where we'd go the inside route, that's actually the most vulnerable timing there in terms of like...
And that's why it was really important that everybody focus fired Mei the second she peaked, because as long as, like, if she has to ice block here, then she can't get into point. I think you're right. Like, if Mei found a timing to go here and wall herself in, Jamie would do like a wall like this and then play behind the wall so no one could really shoot him. Then he starts to get like a little bit of the point pressure, you know. And then what you'll notice is even though we've killed Mei, there isn't this rush to dive. Again, we're not playing a dive comp here. Instead, Kai calls, I can control the objective, I can cap the point, and that's what we do. Chase pushes his timing, farms like the super punch, but nothing really particularly important is happening here. And now we have this really wonderful situation where not only do we not have to play on a timer, the enemy now has to play on a timer. And this is the big problem about the Rhine BAP is all of a sudden I guess we would call it like offensive agency. It almost doesn't exist. There is almost no really solid aggressive tools for them, either with ults or in general. So now we just play the slowest game possible. You know, like we almost don't need to do anything. If they're cast flanks, we need to scout it. Obviously, Chase in the situation is going to scout it, hit him with the super punch and get the kill. Cloudy decides to take space again. As long as my Lucio Anna are playing correctly, then we just move out of this push. They then have to give it up. We keep poking, and then we just find opportunities. And you see how awkward this comp looks the second it starts to try to find timings to repush. Now, unfortunately, there's going to be another free retake here, which obviously is not something. It's not something I'm super pleased about. But that being said, I feel somewhere that like Chase is a bit unlucky here. You know, I feel like this one, I don't think Cloudy means it. But yes, so then we're going to get a free retake. Venture's then going to stay in behind us. That's going to give them like an opportunity to bop both our backlines. So now the Rhine team is going to be able to flip the point, and life is going to get slightly more tricky for us. Now, once they get to this position, they can now feel really, really, really stable. I think Cloudy's again going to come back, and if I pause it, we're going to see something similar. We're going to see this bunker position for the backline, which feels too far to dive. We're going to see DPS attempt to control the point, and now they can slow things down quite easily, you know? And for us, it's going to be really difficult now to force out the objective because they have it, because if we force like Venture out, then they're going to crossfire us, and it's going to feel really difficult for any of us to step on the point long enough to cap it. And in the first fight, because no team caps it, we don't need to step onto it. As long as they don't step onto it, we don't step onto it. No one needs to open the point. But here, we really have to get the point back. So this then puts us in an awkward position. Now their cast controls the side, Venture controls the other side. We then feel the only way for us to retake is we kind of have to force something with ults. Now, to be fair, we have pretty good ults, right? Like Nano, Barrage is pretty good, Doom ult's pretty good. Like there's a lot of ways that we can make this work. But for the first time in this entire 6.5 minutes, which has certainly taken us longer than 6.5 minutes to talk about, I think we finally start to see the effects of the timer. For the first time, we are actually having to reach, and we're trying to force something. And then this is what you see from Kev. He forces a barrage because he has to. Like, he gets nanoed, the lamp is good, the window is good, the beat is good. We just kind of get picked. And now you really start to see why their comp is good if they play it properly, because actually now we are in quite an awkward position. They then make an attempt to push out our backline. On paper, it looks okay. It turns a little bit ugly for them. I think our Dumult is going to get a kill on their backline, then their front line. It's going to really start to get quite tradey. I think it's going to end 2v2. So they probably don't feel great about the repush attempt, but you can kind of see, again, now they're up to 45%. We're going to try to flip point, but again, we don't really have anyone good to touch. Cass and Bap are really good at like just poking, and now they get sturdy again, and it's the same thing. Now we have to find a solution. We're going to have to find a way to Sojourn beat, either force the objective and like flip, which is difficult, or dive their backline, which is also difficult. So we begin spamming, we touch point a little bit, but again, the second we really touch point, it's just going to get cleared by like you'll start to see from Ghost's POV, he's just going to immediately be, they don't even want to give us progress, they don't want to give us 10% of the point flip, and they're just going to play. Two of us go to point, no problem, we're just going to shield up and we're going to play to clear it off. Now, we're going to pop the Sojourn, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on whose team you're on, there's not going to be the correct reaction. There's not going to be a significant amount of shield. There is going to be quite a bit of wide peek in the Sojourn, and there's not going to be a lot of using the lamp. So we're going to get a pick on their most important member across the map. This really shouldn't happen, to be honest with you. I think if this happened to us, we would really, really be disappointed at how easy this was for us to retake. All they needed to do was hide in the corner. Cloudy communicate his shields perfectly. Like, I guess like he's still got like 500 shield here. And try to support everybody moving the cart. The fact that we die here with lamp is really, really awkward. Even we don't get the flip. Now they feel like they have to make moves. So you'll start to see, if I pause it, you'll start to see Cass make some money moves. You'll start to see people chase under. And next thing you know, we've gotten a free retake just from the Sojourn. And now, again, the roles are reversed. Now they have to solve the problem of the retake. But I think what you'll... Go on.
I was going to say, you even see it from Chase's decision making, that when you pop that overclock, Chase isn't diving for Baptiste trying to get a kill. Chase is jumping onto point to try and kill this venture, to try and force the flip, right? Like, it's obviously it works out perfectly because he killed the Bap, but in reality, the overclock is probably unlikely to get a kill. The most likely kill is actually Danid on point rather than like their bunker position.
You're exactly right. And again, if we just think for the entire map, we've almost never set up hard dives on their backline. It's almost never been like hard. It's always been soft and cycly, you know? Like, we've never once really ran for the finish line. We've always played this quite slow and steady. Obviously they have a lot of ults coming up, so maybe there's ways to make move, but it's really awkward for their comp, you know? Like the tectonic shock, I don't really know like how that's going to clear anyone, you know? Like, it's not going to do a lot. We're just going to kind of like kite out of it and retake the space. So they use the venture ult here. We play to disengage it. Again, perfect from Faith in terms of he's really playing it correctly in terms of realizing when he's going to have to speed Sky out of trouble versus when he can just play some like Reddit Lucio fun time. They use an ult. They take a little bit of space, but what's the big problem for them?
No one's touching.
Yeah, so what do we have to do? We have to do absolutely nothing. There is absolutely no need for us to play whatsoever. They are then going to decide to turn it into a rush comp. So they're going to send Ryan and Venture in on our backline. Now, what you're about to see is one of the reasons why dive comps are pretty strong. Because from Chase's perspective, he's going to then try to block the enemy backline. This is the correct decision 100%. Chase is going to go in. He's going to try for the punch. He's going to almost kill Lucio. It's not going to be perfect for him. He's going to get punched. He's going to get low. He's then going to jump out. He's going to be able to line of sight, and then he's going to get the mega. If we then watch Cloudy, who's on a not dive hero, he's going to push the backline. He's going to not really get particularly close. He's then going to get repushed, and he has almost no real like escape tools. Fucks up the pin, is in trouble. And this somewhere is the difference between the dive tanks, is both tanks can contest the enemy backline, but Chase can get in and get out, whereas Cloudy is very much in, and then he's in, and then he's dead. This then allows us a nice repush timing, and they've really just like fumbled in terms of their positioning. The rest of it is really easy, just correct decision making in terms of who do we appeared to be target focused. There was obviously stuff behind, so there is still problems to solve, but as long as we're on the same page, it's fine. We go for cast first, that's fine. We don't give them the flip. Lucio next, no problem. Venture next, and then barrage the Rhine, and then that's all she wrote. So a huge amount of this is very much not playing to dive or playing to brawl, but how both teams are desperate to get some sort of objective advantage and allow the other team to play into them. And I think what we did on both rounds was we effectively played that matchup better. They almost didn't win a fight. If you look at both maps, the only way they ever retook was them like either catching chase in their spawn or Cloudy hitting a miracle pin. We never actually really gave them significant opportunities to play this map. We played the first neutrals perfectly in both situations, and somehow you can probably see it. The options that the dive team has, we just have more. There was just easier ways for us to play than this comp can ever have. I think is ever since season 9, when HP changes got changed, BAP's window went from being actually a pretty good ult to a pretty shit one. Before season 9, if we windowed, we could get Mir right clicks one shot, we could get Sim right clicks one shot, we could get Fire Strikes one shot. We had the opportunity to use this window to pick squishies across the map. All of those like HP breakpoints are changed. So now window just looks like the worst ult in the game, where it's really, really difficult to get value. This is why I think we struggled a lot last season playing BAP, and it's why I think that teams that continue to play BAP struggle as well, is because you just find yourself consistently one ult down. Shatter is never going to be as value as like a Primal or a Mines, so now you're 2 ults down. High Noon isn't really that good unless you combo with an insane TP. That you have to be really creative. So what you end up playing against is a team that has 5 ults and you only have 2. And that's just going to make that long term, it's going to be really difficult to win.
Well, it's why the first fight, because in theory, where the comps are most even, or maybe even advantage of a Rhine team, is nat neutral before the ults come online. So if you don't win that fight, you're always on the back foot, especially like these quite short rounds we get in King of the Hill. I think you kind of see it as well with the fact that, and we can't see the scoreboard here, but if I go and look at Sky's deaths and Kai's deaths, probably like 1
it's
or
almost
2
zero.
at most. Yeah, like really, and even then, like I think it was just like late trade in a scrappy fight more than anything here. Do you think from the, obviously, as a Rhine connoisseur at one point in your life, do you think when they had control of a point here, it's maybe particularly on that Sanctum, have they actually missed an opportunity not trying to stuff you a little bit more? Because in theory, this retake for you, I always feel it's kind of always true any matchup in Sanctum, but the retakes on Sanctum can be so hard because the chokes are quite small and unforgiving.
Yeah, what they would maybe get an opportunity to is actually to push our Ana. Like if they maybe held like somewhere over here and they actually played to squeeze our backline here, maybe they get opportunities to actually like close in and kill the Ana. So yeah, you might be right that actually like letting us through these 2 doorways here, like letting us out here and letting us out here is maybe enough of a mistake where they're asking for trouble. For what it's worth, I really think if they play around this overclock better, I think they can put us like they still got to 82%. Do you know what I mean?
Without
like,
really winning a clean fight at any point, yeah.
Yeah, which is like a testament to the idea, the foundation behind this comp. And I feel like if they played around that overclock, then there's probably opportunities to win. Because again, it would put Chase on a timer where he really has to charge punch and get in, which isn't easy to do.
Do you think as well then there's still like space for this type of composition in like its niche positions or like niche maps where it's particularly good? You know, like we never got to Village on this because you won 2-0, but Village probably actually feels like one of the ones where it's even more possible than maybe like compared to say Shrine and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think at the highest level, I think this comp is like, I think it's very, very limited success against any dive teams. But I definitely think there is places for it, and I do think it's like you saw Cloudy's team took a lot of teams down, like made it difficult for a lot of teams. Like I don't think that this style is terrible, but I do think that there is like a ceiling to it these days. You know, like even on London there was probably a ceiling to it, but like we had pretty good metas, and like we had about as good players for each position as you could ever imagine. You know, and I feel now the game has shifted away. We have a lot of new heroes, and I think it's just it's really difficult to see it working at a super high level.
I want to ask as well, because as much as a lot of it almost, when it works, it looks easy almost for dive, you know? Like maybe Shrine's like a good example of when it just works, it all looks easy. But there is like an element of nuance, especially I think for like Kai and Kevster in all of this, in terms of not taking too much risk, but not just being passive and doing nothing. And there's like, I think Shrine was probably a good example, maybe especially from Kai, of realizing when he can walk forward and when he can walk back, and when he can capitalize off Chase and Kev's distractions and take like a more aggressive angle than maybe you would ever think Sojin can get away with against like what in theory is like a fast comp.
Yeah, I think what is true is there's like moments. I think there was like a moment, if we maybe go back to it, like where they're gonna get the retake. I think maybe it's like after they use the simulate here. There's like exact moments like this where the rank comp is really, really reliant on winning like individual death matches, right? So we would speed Spark a lot and he would just 2-tap someone, and it would just buy us a lot of breathing room and a lot of time. Like run onto the Tracer and look to kill. Like Landon was also insane at that, right? Like, I mean, Jamie was like, we were all pretty insane at it.
Or something, right? Jewel Farah just win. Yeah.
Exactly. There is moments where you really have to take like non-ult 1v1s against their DPS or against their supports and just look to 2-tap. That almost never happened. And maybe there is just like a mechanical chasm in terms of the two teams on screen, in terms of it's really difficult, no offense to anyone on this team, that to see how they can outplay on an individual level like the players on our team, you know, like there was like, that's maybe what London had, was that Spark can dink anyone, no problem. Jamie literally dinks everyone. Like how many times would like even against Kev would Backbone dink Tracer across the map, and then all of a sudden their threat is just gone. So there was moments where really, really needed like right now to speed and to get some sort of kill, you know, to like you needed to hit these.
He's kind
dinks,
of doing it, isn't it? Like he's trying it. Like I think Fi's doing the right decisions. We saw it on Sanctum as well, where he would go right side when the team's left side and just try and force these duels to do exactly that.
Yeah, but he loses the deathmatch, so then it's really impossible, right? Like, but this is Overwatch in a nutshell. Sometimes two players just have to take a deathmatch, and if you're coaching the team that wins it, then you get loads of credit. Whereas just reality is just the players, you know, the players winning deathmatches. But yeah, like they have to find times. That's what like maybe Landon was really good at on BAP, was finding times where you would just flank over and 1v1 a Tracer, you know, like especially the Tracer. There's a lot of characters that can really 1v1 her if they do it right, but in this series, it almost never happened.
Well, we talked about it earlier from the sort of Rhine team's perspective, in terms of it's really annoying to deal with. Oh, where's the ball? Where's the Tracer? I've got to worry about the Sojin angle as well with a Pharaoh or whatever combination of heroes it is. But all of a sudden, if your Cass has just walked and forced recall, we don't have to worry about Tracer for a little bit. And I think, again, the difference between worrying about 3 threats and 2 threats and 2 threats and 1 threat is actually massive. Like
absolutely.
It becomes exponentially easier every time you can neutralize one of these threats, and I think that's kind of that's maybe where the quality of players like Kai and Kev in particular come into play, because they're so good at one, taking these duels if they get put into them, and also being able to recognize when they can get away with a little bit more, and when the team's attention is the other place.
Yeah, I agree.
All right then, Chris. Thank you very much for the insight. We're excited to see you guys play a lot more Dive this season, and hopefully it goes just like this, right? Just like this. Never any problems.
Well, I hope so. I hope we get to play against more Ryan BAP comps, but I suspect we might not be so lucky.
Good to be on the other side. Well, all right. Thank you very much, Chris. Right. Obviously, if you're at home, if you enjoyed this, Chris is available for private coaching. You can reach out to him on Discord or on Metafy as well. You can get yourself some of this insight, whether you're the Rhine team or now whether you're the Dive team as well.
That's it.
The pool of potential clients has actually expanded exponentially here. So I appreciate your time and your insight, Chris. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.